Yo, what up? It's your boy AJ back with Daily Sports Talk. A long week of sports. Good week of sports. A lot of basketball. I was 50% on my NFL pick, so I'm not too happy about that. But that's alright. We're not gonna really talk about that. The Chiefs gonna win. It's gonna be a wrap. It's over. So let's hop into the games. Friday was pretty good. Pretty filled with games. Let's go Bulls, Hornets, 123-110. Gordon Hayward had a big game, 34, 6 and 4, but it wasn't enough to overcome 29, 9 and 6 from Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine is playing like a monster. I've said this before already. The Bulls can score with any team that they please. It all comes down to how many stops they can get and if they can control the pace. When they start, getting into half-court offenses and things of that nature where they slow the game down, they're not as effective. But you catch them on a good night and they can put up big numbers, which they did. 123-110. Got Rockets Pistons, 103-102. David Nwabe was big for the Rockets off the bench last night, 13, 7 and 4, 2 steals. He did his thing. The Rockets, they're gonna be. I think they're right outside the playing game. They're number 11 right now, and they have guys that just want to play. They're starting to gain a little bit of chemistry, so that's good. But when you lose a guy like James Harden, it's hard to replace that. But slowly and surely they'll come along. They have the people who can score, but it just really depends on if they're hot or not. They're kind of a streaky team. But they got guys who want to play, so their defense is pretty good. So we got 103-102 over the Pistons. Pacers Magic, 120-118. Like I said, the Pacers with Brogdon and Sabonis are good enough to get into the playoffs and make some noise. And they've been winning pretty good games, and they're in every game that they play because they play very good defense, and they can destroy you on the inside with Miles Turner and Sabonis, but also they can shoot very well from the perimeter. Them and Utah are kind of similar if we go division for division. So I like the Pacers. I like what they did on Friday night. 18, 11, and 9, almost a triple-double from Sabonis. 120-118. We got Cavs Nets. The second time in a row that these guys lost to the Cavs. It's really just a bump in the road. I'm not really so worried about it because people are not really giving the Cavs as much credit as they deserve. They have a team that can score well. They control the boards with Drummond and JaVale. So they have a lot of guys. And they're long on defense as well. They have a lot of long players that help in with the rebounds. Larry Nance. We got the rookie. I forgot his name, but he's a big boy as well. And they have guys that can rebound, and when you can rebound, you can control the clock, you can control your offense, you can slow it down, and you can get second chances when they're offensive rebounds. So the Cavs took care of business. They had 2 big quarters. They came out in the third, had 37 in the third quarter, and they just the Nets are just not. The Nets are not gelled enough yet. They're not together enough yet to be able to figure out what was the problem. Those guys always score big. Kyrie and James Harden. That game, KD did not play. It was just the James Harden and Kyrie show. Kyrie had 38 and 5. These guys can put up big numbers, but they just haven't gelled completely yet. At that point on Friday, so they weren't able to get it done. And the Cavs already had a little bit of momentum because they just beat them the first time with all 3. So good win for the Cavs. 8 and 7 for them. They're a little. They're one of those sleeper teams. Celtics 76ers. Again, no Tatum, but Brown stepped up big, 42, 9 and 3. Those two, that's why I say fully healthy Celtics is gonna be a monster in the East. It's gonna be a hard out for any team because of that fact that Jaylen Brown can go get you 42, 9 and 3. And then when Tatum's on the floor, it's not that he's really taking the ball too much away from Jaylen because they usually both score around like 25 to 30. when they're on the floor together. So, you know, they missed Tatum. They're missing him these last couple games, but they stuck in. They stuck in most of the game. But in the third quarter, the 76ers took the game over, 42-28. They outscored the Celtics in the third quarter, and it was a wrap from there. And Joel, he's just a monster. He's just too big. He's too dominant. His moves are too good, and nobody can really stop him, it seems, so far. So, you know, if he keeps playing that way, I think his name will stay up there on the MVP. 38, 11, and 3 from Joel. The monster night. Next game, Heat Raptors, 101-81. The Raptors, like I said, they're just not there yet. I don't know if it's because they're lacking a superstar, or if they're just, you know, they're just starting slow, or I mean, what's going on with them? Because a couple games I see where they dominate on defense and then they can turn around and hit some shots. But other games I just see them get totally blown out. And, you know, that's not a good trend that you want to start. You don't want to be so flip-floppy. But it's they play good against the Heat. The Heat were down a couple main players. Kendrick Nunn had a big game. Kendrick Nunn is going to be big for the Heat down the stretch when they get their full roster back. Because he can come off the bench and give you 20 points. But, you know, not a bad game from the Heat, but they just didn't have enough firepower to beat the Raptors. 101-81. The Raptors took that game. Pascal Siakam had 15, 14, and 5. We got Hawks Timberwolves next. Trae Young, big game. 43, 5, and 4. Big night for Trae Young. He took the game over. I mean, he was just lighting it up. He was hot from the field. He shot 8 of 12 from 3-point, 14 of 22 from the field. I mean, he just couldn't be put out last night. He was white hot, and there was no hope for the Timberwolves at all. The Timberwolves, you know, people thought because they had that pick with Edwards that they'd have a shot to maybe take a little more of a leap, a little more of a step in the playoffs, but they're just off. Cat's going through, you know, a real rough year already, and without him as their centerpiece, you know, they're really just a bunch of guys there. They're not really figuring out how they work together. They're not really scoring very well, very efficiently, and they're 3-11 right now. So, you know, it's tough for the Timberwolves, but you know, the Hawks took advantage of that and they won that game easily, 116-98. We got Mavs Spurs. Two well-coached teams, two teams that can, you know, play big. They can play small. They can play 3-point. They can go dump it down to the perimeter. I liked the matchup last night, Aldridge and Porzingis. But the difference maker was Luka, and he just keeps doing it. They're still up there, 7 through 10 playing game right now. He's just magnificent with the ball. 36, 11, and 9, almost a triple double. He has almost a triple double every night. He's LeBron-esque in that way. His passing, his facilitating. He's also LeBron-esque because, I mean, he doesn't really shoot that consistently well. But last night, you know, 13 and 28 and 4 of 12 from the 3, 6 for 6 from free throws. So that was probably the biggest part of his shooting night. He went perfect from the free throw line, which he doesn't do very often. So you know, two well coached teams. It came down to the wire, and you know, the Spurs tried to make a run in the fourth quarter to get it close to tie it up and maybe send it to overtime. But you know, they couldn't get enough stops, and the Mavs ended up taking that one. Let's go Nuggets Suns. Big game. Two teams I can see are gonna be maybe 3-4, 4-5, 5 or 6, somewhere in there. But they'll be neck and neck, I believe. I know the Suns have been struggling a little bit with their identity and finishing through games fully. But, however, I do think they'll still be in the playoffs. They're good enough to be in the playoffs. Excuse me. They're good enough to be in the playoffs, and they played well enough to win last night. But Jamal Murray came alive in the third quarter and the fourth quarter for the Nuggets, and he hits a game time shot to send it to OT, and then he drains the game winner over Mikal Bridges in overtime to really finish the game off. Him and Jokic, their duo is just so dynamic, especially with the help that they have around them. Gary Harris, they got a new addition, Michael Green. I think he's really good. Good piece for them. They have a lot of players on the Nuggets that can get a bucket, and I think that going farther than people would have given them a shot to last year, kind of it sits in their brains, and it sits in their hearts, and it sits in their pride that people counted us out when we made it that far. So why not shock them again? And I think that's the type of team that they are. They're not really a selfish team, and they play team basketball, and they just keep coming at you, and they're trying to win games and win a championship. So